Thanksgiving erupted into chaos when my sister-in-law invaded our private bedroom. My husband expelled her, and it triggered a cascade of events that landed us in legal battles. I'm Elise, a 28-year-old woman, married to Martin, a 30-year-old man, for 3 years. We met 6 years ago at a friend's barbecue, and it felt like a scene from a romantic movie. He accidentally splashed his drink on me. I brushed it off with a laugh, and we ended up talking for hours. We dated for 3 years before tying the knot, and those were some of the happiest moments of my life. Martin is everything I could wish for in a partner. Kind, supportive, and deeply connected to me in a way I've never experienced before. We both work full-time. Martin teaches high school history, and I'm a graphic designer at a local ad agency. Our evenings are precious to us. We often cook dinner together, experimenting with recipes we find online, then relax with our favorite TV shows. It's a simple routine, but it's ours and I cherish it. When we got married, we faced a tough decision about where to live. We'd been renting a small apartment but wanted something more stable. Martin suggested moving into his childhood home. His father, Henrik, passed away from cancer 6 years ago, and his mother, Margot, a 57-year-old woman, lived alone in the spacious 2-story house. At first, I was hesitant. Living with in-laws can be tricky, and I worried about privacy and boundaries. But Martin explained the setup, and it seemed practical. The house was large enough for us to have the entire upstairs while Margot stayed downstairs. It felt like a perfect solution. We'd have our own space, Margot's companionship, and the chance to save money. Margot is a warm woman who keeps to herself. A retired librarian, she spends her days reading and tending to her garden. When we moved in, she emphasized that she respected our privacy and wouldn't intrude. She even playfully suggested installing a bell at the base of the stairs to signal her approach, but we assured her it wasn't needed. For the first few months, everything was wonderful. We fell into a comfortable routine. Martin and I left for work early, often crossing paths with Margot as she brewed her morning tea. We'd chat briefly before heading out. Evenings were spent sharing dinner, swapping stories about our day. It felt like we were building a genuine family bond. But then Martin's sister, Sophia, a 34-year-old woman, started causing trouble. Sophia and Martin were close as kids. Despite their 2-year age gap, Martin often shared stories of their childhood adventures and how Sophia always looked out for him. When I first met her, I was eager to form a bond, hoping she'd be the sister I never had. But Sophia was distant and dismissive from the start. I initially thought she was just reserved and needed time to warm up. But as months passed, it became clear she simply didn't like me. She'd make snarky comments about my clothes or career, always with a polite smile that made it hard to call her out without seeming overly sensitive. Sophia is married to Julian, a 34-year-old man, and they have 2 kids, an 8-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl. They live about 25 minutes away in a cozy suburban neighborhood. Despite having her own family, Sophia visited Margot almost daily. At first, I found her devotion to her mother sweet, but I soon realized her visits were more about monitoring us and trying to control the household. About 6 months after we moved in, I came home early from work feeling unwell and caught Sophia rummaging through our belongings. Shocked, I asked what she was doing. She claimed she was searching for an old family photo album. I knew this was a lie. Martin and I had sorted through all the old photos when we moved in and neatly stored them on the downstairs living room bookshelf. This incident led to our first major clash. Sophia criticized the way we maintained our space, calling it cluttered and saying I clearly didn't know how to manage a home. I was hurt and frustrated but tried to stay composed. I explained that we both worked full-time and did our best to keep things tidy. This seemed to set her off. She launched into a tirade, calling me lazy and claiming I didn't belong in her family's home. She even suggested Martin would soon realize I was worthless and throw me out. Her words stung deeply. I'd always been polite and respectful to Sophia, even when she was cold. Hearing her say such things felt like a betrayal. When I told Martin that evening, he was livid. He couldn't believe his sister would behave that way. The next day, he confronted Sophia when she came to see Margot. Sophia tried to downplay it, insisting I was exaggerating, but Martin didn't buy it. He made it clear that if she couldn't respect me, she wasn't welcome in our home. This only seemed to fuel Sophia's determination to cause trouble. She began spreading rumors about me to other family members, telling their aunts and uncles that I was trying to drive a wedge between Martin and his family, manipulating him against them. It was infuriating and painful, especially since I'd always gone out of my way to be kind to Martin's relatives. Things reached a boiling point last Thanksgiving. We were hosting a dinner for both our families, which I'd spent days planning. I wanted everything to be perfect, hoping a warm family gathering might ease tensions with Sophia. I even asked Margot for some family recipes to include in the meal. The day started well, but then Sophia showed up with 3 uninvited friends. We didn't have enough food for extra guests. When I politely explained this to Sophia, she exploded, accusing me of being selfish and inhospitable. The argument escalated quickly. Sophia shouted that I was trying to take over the family and push her out. She even claimed I was turning Margot against her. I was in tears and Martin was furious. He ultimately asked Sophia and her friends to leave, which only made her angrier. After that incident, Sophia started demanding we sell the house and split the proceeds. She argued it was unfair that we lived there rent-free while she had to pay for her own home. We explained that we contributed to household expenses and helped care for Margot, but Sophia wouldn't listen. She seemed convinced I was exploiting the situation. The situation has spiraled out of control. Sophia continues to spread lies about me and is now trying to turn Margot against us. She's even shown up at my workplace, causing scenes that have humiliated me in front of colleagues. Last week, my boss pulled me aside to ask if everything was okay at home, which was mortifying. Martin and I have considered moving out, but we don't want to leave Margot alone, and we love this house. It's more than just a place to live. It holds memories of Martin's father, and we've created our own memories here over the years. Leaving because of Sophia feels like letting her win. I'm at a loss for what to do. I've tried everything to make peace with Sophia. I've invited her for coffee to talk things out, sent thoughtful birthday and Christmas gifts, and even offered to watch her kids to build a connection, but nothing works. She seems determined to hate me no matter what. Martin has been incredibly supportive, but I can see how much this family conflict is weighing on him. He's torn between his love for me and his bond with his sister. I don't want to be the reason for a rift between them, but I can't keep living under this constant attack. Margot has tried to stay neutral, which has made things worse. I understand she doesn't want to pick sides between her children, but her silence sometimes feels like she's quietly endorsing Sophia's behavior. Martin suggested family counseling, but Sophia refuses, insisting I'm the one who needs help, not her. That I love Martin more than anything, and I want to make this work. But I'm starting to wonder if that's possible with Sophia in the picture. Has anyone dealt with a similar issue with in-laws? How did you handle it? I'm seeking advice on how to resolve this without destroying my relationship with Martin's family. I'm terrified that if things don't change soon, it could permanently damage my marriage, which is the last thing I want. Update 1. It's been nearly 2 months since my original post, and a lot has unfolded. First, I want to thank everyone for their kind words and advice. It really helped me gain clarity and gave me the courage to take action. After much discussion, Martin and I decided to take a more assertive approach with Sophia. We realized that trying to appease her or ignore the issue wasn't working, and it was time to tackle the problem directly. We started by sitting down with Margot for an honest conversation about everything that had been happening. To our surprise, Margot was more aware of the situation than we thought. She revealed that Sophia had been venting to her about me for months, but she didn't believe everything Sophia said. Margot admitted she felt stuck in the middle and wasn't sure how to handle it without upsetting either of her children. She also shared insight that shed light on Sophia's behavior. Apparently, Sophia has always struggled with change and had a hard time when Martin went off to college. Margot believes Sophia's issues with me stem from a fear of losing her place in the family. This conversation with Margot was a turning point. She suggested we hold a family meeting to clear the air. We were nervous at first, worried it would turn into another shouting match, but we eventually agreed it might be the best way to address everything openly. So last weekend, we invited Sophia and Julian over for dinner and a discussion. The days leading up to it were nerve-wracking. I spent hours cleaning the house, wanting everything to be impeccable so Sophia had no reason to criticize. Martin was tense, torn between hope and dread. Margot kept busy making Sophia's favorite dessert, hoping it would set a positive tone. When Sophia and Julian arrived, the atmosphere was heavy with tension. We made awkward small talk over dinner, everyone skirting the real issue. Finally, after the meal, Martin cleared his throat and suggested we move to the living room to talk. The discussion started off strained. Sophia quickly went on the offensive, accusing me of trying to steal her family. I took a deep breath, recalled the advice I'd received, and calmly explained how her actions had been hurtful and unwarranted. I provided specific instances of her behavior and how it affected me emotionally, maintaining a calm and non-blaming tone. Martin supported me, telling Sophia that her treatment of me was unacceptable. He pointed out all the occasions I had tried to build a connection with her, only to be dismissed or shamed. It was tough for him, I could tell, but he remained firm in standing by me. To our surprise, Julian chimed in. He had always stayed quiet at family events, and I realized I barely knew him despite being in-laws for 3 years. He shared that Sophia's fixation on her old family home and her resentment toward me were straining their marriage. He mentioned that Sophia had been spending more time at Margot's place than at theirs, ignoring their kids in the process. Julian looked exhausted as he spoke, and I felt sympathy for him. Sophia seemed stunned by this revelation. She broke down in tears, admitting she felt like she was being pushed out of the family. She confessed to being jealous of my bond with Martin and threatened by my role in her childhood residence. Amid her crying, she explained how hard it was to see the house evolve. The fresh paint shades we selected, the shifted furniture, and the photos of Martin and me displayed on the walls. Each change felt like it was wiping away her youthful recollections. While I empathized with her feelings, I made it clear that her actions were not okay. We had a long, heartfelt discussion about limits, mutual respect, and family ties. Sophia opened up about feeling abandoned when Martin left for college, and how she had always imagined bringing up her own children in that family home. I shared my own worries about never being accepted by her, and how her conduct had made me feel unwelcome in what was meant to be my own space. By the evening's end, Sophia had said sorry for her actions, and we committed to starting fresh. It wasn't an instant fix. Years of tension don't vanish in a day, but it felt like progress. We set some basic guidelines. Sophia would phone before visiting and honor our privacy in our area of the house. We'd plan regular family meals to foster positive connections. Sophia would cease sharing false stories and making negative remarks about me to other relatives. We'd all make an effort to express our thoughts and issues openly and sincerely. Sophia agreed to think about consulting a counselor to address her emotions around change and family dynamics. It's only been a week since our gathering, but I've already noticed improvements. Sophia has been more respectful during her stops, notifying us in advance as agreed. She even asked Martin and me to come over for a meal, which was a new gesture. The night was a bit awkward, but it was heartening to see Sophia trying. Margot appeared relieved that we're all working toward harmony. She's been more at ease and has even talked about planning a vacation, something she hasn't done since Henrik passed. I think she feels less burdened with the role of mediator now that we're communicating better. Martin and I have had several deep talks since the family session. He's apologized for not realizing how deep Sophia's problems ran and for not defending me earlier. We're navigating it as a team, and if anything, this ordeal has strengthened our bond. I'm cautiously positive about this shift. I know it will require time to restore trust and create a genuinely good rapport with Sophia. There are still moments when I feel wary around her, bracing for a setback, but I'm striving to enter our interactions with openness and goodwill. We have a family outing scheduled for next weekend at the park where Martin and Sophia played as kids. It was Sophia's suggestion, and I'm viewing it as an encouraging sign. I'm nervous, but optimistic. I'll keep you posted on developments. Thanks again for all your guidance and encouragement. It's been a challenging path, but I'm hopeful we're moving toward becoming a real family. Update 2. It's been about 3 months since my last post, and I wish I had more positive updates to share. First, things seemed to be getting better with Sophia. She followed our rules, and we even had a few pleasant family gatherings. The outing I mentioned in my prior update turned out surprisingly nice. Sophia shared some funny tales about her and Martin's youthful escapades, and for the first time, I felt like I was glimpsing the sibling Martin had always described. However, around a month ago, the situation took a turn for the worse. It started when Martin and I announced we were expecting our first baby. We'd been attempting to conceive for a while and were thrilled with the positive results. We decided to reveal the news at a family dinner, expecting everyone to be happy for us. Margot was ecstatic, immediately chatting about knitting booties and setting up a nursery in the extra room downstairs. But Sophia's response was unexpected. She offered congratulations with a forced grin initially, but her demeanor grew increasingly odd over time. She started showing up at the house without warning again, often at unusual times. One evening, around 11 p.m., she rang the bell, saying she'd had a nightmare and needed to check on Margot. Another instance, she arrived at 6 a.m. on a Saturday, claiming she was nearby and wanted to drop in for breakfast. When challenged, she insisted she was just looking after Mom, even though Margot was perfectly okay. The issues escalated when Sophia began rearranging things in our upstairs area. She said she was preparing for the baby, but it seemed more like she was asserting dominance over our space. She moved our furniture around, insisting certain arrangements were safer for an infant. She even inspected our kitchen cupboards and scolded us about the dangers of particular cleaning products. When I asked her to stop, she labeled me ungrateful and emotional. She argued she was just offering assistance and that I obviously knew nothing about parenting. It felt like all the headway from the past few months had disappeared in an instant. The tipping point came last week. I got home early from work due to nausea and found Sophia in our bedroom, going through our wardrobe. She claimed she was hunting for some old infant items she believed Margot had stored there, but I knew that wasn't true. We'd already sorted everything upon moving in. I asked Sophia to leave, trying to stay composed despite my growing frustration, but she became frantic instead. She started yelling about how this was her family's residence and I had no authority to remove her. She went as far as to say that she, not I, should be the one having a child in this house. She ranted about growing up there, how she'd always pictured raising her kids in that home, and how unfair it was that I was commandeering her family property. Martin came home during this outburst and was furious. He sternly told Sophia to depart and not return until she could honor our privacy and rules. Sophia stormed out crying, but not before threatening that we'd regret it. Since then, Sophia has been calling Margot non-stop, trying to sway her against us. She's been telling Margot that we're excluding her from the family and don't want her involved with the baby. She's also posted subtle, indirect jabs on social media about fake families and intruders. Margot is stuck in the middle again, divided by her affection for all her children, including the one on the way. She's been trying to intervene, but it's clear the pressure is wearing her down. Martin and I are at our wits' end. We cherish this home and don't want to abandon Margot, but we're seriously contemplating relocating for our sanity and our developing child. We're worried about the impact the stress has on the pregnancy, and we don't want our kid to be raised in such a toxic environment. We plan to sit down with Margot again about the issue. We're hoping she'll see our side and suggest Sophia seek professional support. Sophia's actions seem to go beyond simple sibling competition or anxiety about shifts. We're concerned there might be underlying problems involved. If nothing gets better, we may need to make the tough choice to depart. The idea breaks our hearts. We love this place and the life we've built here, but our child has to come first. I'll share more when things evolve. Thanks for your continued encouragement through this tough period. Update 3. It's been 6 weeks since my previous update, and a lot has shifted. I'm 19 weeks along, and we just learned we're expecting a girl. Amid the joyful news, the issues with Sophia have worsened. After our last conflict, Sophia's conduct grew more erratic. She started sending us lengthy, disjointed emails late at night, alternating between apologies and accusations. One minute she'd express remorse, and the next she'd blame me for destroying her family. She'd appear at our workplaces, creating disturbances and humiliating us before our colleagues. My boss had to escort her out twice, and I was mortified. The final breaking point occurred 2 weeks ago. Martin and I returned from a prenatal visit where we got our 20-week ultrasound. We were excited to share the images with Margot, but upon entering, we found Sophia preparing dinner as if all was normal. Margot was seated at the table, appearing uncomfortable. When we questioned what was happening, Sophia stated she'd decided to move back in to assist with caring for Mom and the baby. We were astonished. Martin promptly told Sophia that wasn't going to happen, but she ignored him. She started screaming about how this was her family residence, and she had more claim to it than I did. In the midst of the argument, she admitted she'd been plotting this move for weeks and had already started stashing some of her things in the basement. Margot finally intervened. She disclosed that Sophia had been pressuring her into allowing this setup, even threatening to cut ties if Margot refused. Margot had been too afraid of losing her daughter to refuse, though she was obviously distressed by the situation. Seeing how upset his mother was motivated Martin to act. He calmly but resolutely told Sophia she needed to leave right away, or he'd call the authorities. Sophia exploded, shouting and hurling items. In her fury, she unintentionally shoved Margot, causing her to stumble and strike her head on the kitchen counter. The next few hours were a blur of emergency services, police, and hospital waits. Thankfully, Margot was okay, suffering only a minor concussion, but the event was a stark awakening for us all. At the hospital, we learned Sophia had been struggling with mental health issues and had recently stopped her medication without consulting her physician. This clarified some of her unstable behavior, though it didn't excuse it. Following this incident, we made some significant choices. We've obtained a protective order against Sophia. It pains us deeply to take this step, but we have to prioritize our safety and that of our unborn child. Margot has committed to therapy to process the events and set healthier boundaries with Sophia. We're collaborating with Sophia's spouse, Julian, to ensure she receives the help she needs. He's been very cooperative and has apologized for the whole ordeal. For now, we've chosen to remain in the house. Margot needs our support, and we don't want to disrupt our lives due to Sophia's actions. We're converting the basement into a small suite. For Margot, giving her more autonomy while keeping her close. It's been a grueling few months, but we're hopeful these changes will lead to a calmer future. We're concentrating on preparing for our daughter's birth and creating a nurturing, safe environment for her. Thank you for standing by us through this trying experience. Your insights and kind messages have provided us with resilience. We're eager for the upcoming phase in our lives, which we hope will...
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a twist. Stay tuned to Reddit Tales Times for your daily dose of drama, laughs, and unbelievable stories.